So it's very, very important as you're watching, immediately you're practicing, okay? It's going to help you go a long way. So the first thing we're going to do is to draft the basics. We're going to draft the basics immediately. That's what we're doing. So the first thing you want to do is to crease your paper. Once you get your paper, fold into two like this and crease it. So you fold into two like this and crease. So check your paper. Make sure you have up to your hip circumference divided by 2 on each side. So I'll be using here for the front and I'll be using here for the back. So after that, you're going to draw a line. This is going to be your margin for the upper part. You can also draw here, but I don't want to draw on this part because I want the paper to be enough for me. I'm not going to be adding extra paper, okay? So this line here at this top is our shoulder line. This is where our measurement will start from for the vertical points. So you're going to go from shoulder all the way to all the vertical points or your vertical lines that you have found. So we're going to start with shoulder to armhole. We're going to mark it. Shoulder to armhole, shoulder to bust point, you mark. So you can see how I left my tape there. Then shoulder to your under bust. Under bust is 15 here, 15 and a half, sorry. Then shoulder to waist, waistline is 19. Then waist to hip. So the usual figure that I use for waist to hip is 10 inches for most of the sizes, except if the person has a smaller length. So 10 inches from here is 29. So count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You will get where it will be. So if you don't want to move the tape. So I'm going to extend these markings to the other side like this. So I'm going to create my horizontal lines now with this. So, okay, that's the bust. This is the armhole. Almost skipped this. Armhole, bust, on the bust, waistline, on the hip line. So let me use my marker to make this bold. So right here I've done that, and this is the armhole, bust, under bust, waist, and hip. Okay, so once we're done with that, I'm going to do the upper part. I'm going to be creating the armhole and the neckline. So that's the next step. So how do you do that? You're going to come to your shoulder line and put in the shoulder measurement divided by 2, whatever your shoulder is. So you can see I'm starting from the edge of the paper. This edge of the paper is actually called the center front line. So the CF. So we're starting from the CF to do that measurement. So you go from the CF, the center front, all the way. You also mark it on the armhole area. Okay. So you're going to connect these 2 points. So after connecting, you're going to do a shoulder slant. So let's do a shoulder slant of 1.5. From here now, I'm going to divide what is left into 2, and I'll come in by 3/4 of an inch. Then on the armhole line, you're going to mark your bust circumference divided by 4. So from the center front, you measure and mark that it is 9/3 for me. Then I'm going to get my curve ruler and I'll connect. So I connected these 3 points to form the armhole curve. Then next, I'm going to do the neckline. I'll do 3.5 by 3. And I'm going to connect with my curve also. Then you're going to connect from this tip of your neckline, the tip of the neckline, down to that shoulder. So I found this upper part. You can see how simple that is, right? So I hope you can see my lines. So let me quickly make this quite visible for you. My marker. Okay, so once you're done with this, the next thing you're going to do, we're going to do that of the back at this stage that it is now. We're going to see the reason why I want to do that of the back. So for the back now, this is what you're going to do. This armhole line, we're going to extend it. All we have here is what? 9.5. I need to make sure I have that same figure here. Okay, so once you're done with that, this same thing you did here, we're going to do it for the back. So here now, this line becomes the center back line in this case. So this becomes the center back line. So from this center back line, you're going to find your shoulder measurement on the shoulder. Then on the armhole line also, you find it 8 inches. Connect with a straight line. I'll be using my pencil first. Then do a shoulder slant. I'll be doing 1 inch. Now I'm doing this basic because that's from where we want to create our pattern. Normally I would have just do my thing and go, but because I am teaching, I have to show you everything step by step. So once you find the midpoint, you're going to come in back 1/2 inch. But most times I do 3/4 also for the back, because I find that it usually squeezes around the armhole area. So I just leave it at that. So you can do 3/4, you can do 1/2 inch. Okay. So once you've gotten that, the next thing you're going to do is on this armhole line. Remember, we also marked the bust measurement to connect the armhole, right? So that bust measurement, you're also going to mark it here. So it is 9 3/4, which is here. Now, I want to collect some figure. This 9 3/4 for the back, I want to collect some and give to the front. Do you know why? Because there's no bust at the back. Literally, the bust occupies more of this our bust circumference compared to the back. So it is, in fact, in general, if you look at it, it is best you give to the bust what belongs to it. The back doesn't have bust. So why will I share it equally and give to them? Like just ask me how. So that's just it. So how do you give them equal share when there's no bust at the back? So we're going to take a little bit out of the back and give to the front because it's the front that has bust. So what I usually do is this: I will take out 1/2 inch. Just half is okay. So instead of here, I'll be marking here for the back. Then this half now, I'll take it to the front. So I'll give it to the front here. So don't mind, I'm using the midpoint of my supposed to mark on the tip of your tape to find half, right? So it's the same thing. So once you've gotten that, that means where we are stopping is actually here for the front. I hope you got that right. So we need to get this correctly. That's why I said we should do that of the back at this point. So next we're going to connect our armhole for the back. We're no more stopping at this point. Here it's cancelled. So you take it out. This is where we're working with. So we're going to go ahead now and connect the curves. So just place your curve. You can take it step by step. This one first before the other one. Okay, so once I'm done with that, let's just quickly do the neckline. For the neckline, I'll just do 1 inch down. Then whatever I have used here for this width, I use 3, right? That's what you'll be using for the back also. So 3 inches is here. Then with your curve, you take that out like this. Then you connect your shoulder slants. Okay, so now we've got that figured out. Later we're going to complete here, but at this point now, let's continue here. As we do here, we do that side, step by step. So the next thing we're going to do now is to complete the pattern of this our dartless basic pattern. So next thing we're going to do is to find the waist measurement divided by 4. my waist circumference is 34. I'm using 34 here. Divided by 4 is 8.5, which is here. Yeah. Let's use the amount. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark this bust circumference that we have used here now, this new one. So this new bust circumference, in total now I have 10 1/4. Okay, I'm going to bring it down to the waist. Then square it up with your ruler. Okay, then on the hip line, you're going to mark your hip circumference divided by 4. For me, it's 11. 44 divided by 11 by 4 is 11. You mark, then you connect also. So here I didn't impute the waist. So as you can see, I used what we have here all the way down. So this will help us to create our dart easily. So let's focus on the front now. By the time we're done with the front, we enter the back. So once you're done connecting this line, next we're going to create the dart that is required for this particular pattern that we're doing. Okay, so next you're going to find your nipple to nipple point on the pattern. So I'm working with 4 inches. That nipple to nipple is 8 divided by 2, that's 4. You mark the point on the bust line. You also come to the hip line and mark it. So you're marking it all the way. So you're going to use your ruler now to connect the points like this. So this becomes your point that you will be using to create your dart for this pattern. Now this outfit is going to run over your bust. You know, we stopped at the bust. It's going to run over the bust. So you still need to look for your point over the bust. So you can work with the middle of the shoulder line that you have here. So you can work with the middle and connect all the way. So I don't want the corset to be in a slant position on this upper part. I want it to go straight. So I can still connect this my 4 inches all the way. All right. So I can work with these 4 inches all the way. So let's work all the way. This is where it stops at this point. So instead of using half of your shoulder, which is supposed to be about 2.5, so you can use 1/4 of the shoulder line. So whatever you have here, divide it into 4, then use 1 out of the 4, the first one out of the 4. So you have 1 2 3 4 parts. So the first part now is what I want to work with. I don't want to work with the slant. The slant one is the one that goes like this, but I want to work with the one that goes straight, which is this one. So you can choose any one of your choice. Depends on what you want to create. Okay, so we're going to work with that. So once you're done with that, next thing is to start imputing your darts. So I'm going to find the length of the corset first before we continue with the darts. So you want to check what length do you prefer. Do you want to do this particular length or doing, or there are other type of length, other variation of length you want to use? You can go ahead and apply it. In this case, I'm going to be using length of 26. I think 26 is good. You can do 27. You know, I'm doing 26 because of the particular style of this corset. So I'm going to create the connecting line for this. So this is our corset length. This is going to be our length. So I'll just label it L there. Okay. So since I've gotten all the lines that I need now, next we are going to shift this line. You see this line we just found now to find the bust point. Yes, this is now your bust point. The point where your nipple to nipple line crosses your bust line, that becomes your bust point. That's your nipple point. It's also called bust point. It's also called apex. So which name you want to call it is left for you. So now we've used this line to find that bust point. We need to move this line to another direction because we are creating a particular kind of style. So this is what I'm going to do. From my length now, that's why I found this length. From the length now, we are going to come in by 2 inches. 2 inches is good. So you can do two, or you can measure what you have here and divide into two, or you can do 1.5. Depends on you and your choice. So 2 inches is okay, which is here. So you mark it. Then you're going to connect this all the way to the bust point. Connect it all the way to the bust point. Now I'm going to remove this line. So you can see the reason why I was using my pencil. I'm going to remove this line. I'm not going to be using this line anymore. So yes, once we have found that, we're going to start doing our dart intake. So when creating your corset on a mesh fabric, it is easier when you create your panels in the pattern and cut it. It immediately shows you where your boning channels will go through. Okay. So once I found this line, I'm going to start the dart intake. So whatever your underbust is, I'm going to start off the dart intake from the underbust. So whatever your underbust is, measure it here. So my underbust is, I'm using an underbust of 33 and divided by 4, it is 8 1/4. 8 1/4 is here. Okay. So once you find that 8 1/4, you now measure whatever that is left. See, what we're doing here is to use the bust, wherever the bust stops, the excess that is there will become the dart intake for this particular corset method. Okay, there are different methods to do your dart intake. Okay, but this one method is something that can work for almost everybody, because now you don't need to start asking yourself, is it 1 inch dart intake I should do, or is it half inch, or is it 2 inches? This difference will tell you that this is the amount that is suitable for this particular body type that you're working with. So at the end, you might now decide, okay, I don't feel like using 2 inches, it's too much, I want to reduce it, I don't need 100% contouring, I want to reduce it. Or you say, no, I need more um contouring, then you can increase it. But this is like the basic, the standard that you can use for most of the body types. Okay, I hope you got that. Okay, all right. So once I've gotten that, I can now determine to use that as my dart intake or not. Now this figure you have gotten now, which is 2, I got 2 for myself. 2 inches in a total, this is the 100%. Like this is the whole thing we measured, right? That is the 100% of it. So you can decide to say, I don't want to do the whole of it, which is 100%. I can decide to do 75%. I don't want to do 100% contouring because I don't want my underbust to be very contoured. Because at the end of the day, I want a good flow at the underbust area. So the trick here is that I'm actually using an ambiguous explanation here by saying 100%, right? If I say, oh, I want to do 100% under bust tightening, that means I'm using the whole of these 2 inches that I got here as a difference. If I say, no, I want to do 75% or 50, that means you have to divide this into 4 places. These 2 inches now, divide it into 4 places. Okay. If you divide it into 4 places, just, bend your tape. So, but on a normal, we already know that dividing this into 4 places, like 2 divided by 4, will give you half. So we have half inch. So half inch is 25%. Another half inch is another 25%. Another half inch is another 25%, and so on. But here we're aiming at 100%, right? So half inch 25, 1 inch is 50. 1.5 is 75. 1.5 is 75. 2 inches is 100% intake. So for this particular corset, we don't want to do a total tight. We don't want to do a tight dart intake. No, 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 no. We don't want that. So I can decide to do just 50% dart intake, which is 1 inch in this case. Or I can decide to do 75%, which is 1.5 in this case. So for me, I'm going to be doing, let's do a total of 1.5. I'll be marking half inch to this side. Okay. Then I'll be marking half inch to this side. Then the remaining 1.5 will go here. I hope you go with that. This is still a total of 1.5, but I didn't put it in the middle. I didn't use this line as the middle of this. I want more to go to the this part because you can see that here has more space. So why should I come and be dragging space with this one that has small space? So the best thing is to give the one that has much space much figure. So you can even decide to give all of the figure to this side. Okay, you can decide to do everything here. It's just that I want to have that bust curve around here. Okay, so that's why I'm working with this. So I'm working half here, one and a half to this side. So everything is one and a half. So half here, one here. Okay, so once you get that, you're going to get your curve ruler. Now you're going to connect this all the way to the bust point. Okay, then you also connect this one. So it's very, very important you're using your curve ruler because you want to have that curve. You don't want to have straight line at this point. So once you're done with that, you can decide to take this, narrow it down like this. So you can decide to narrow it down like this. So you can also decide to narrow this down like this. But what I like to do is whatever I've marked here, I'll come down here also and mark it. Okay. So that at the end I will add it up here just to have that flat, straight lower part. Okay. To have that flat, straight lower part. So I can clean this. I hope you are getting me step by step as I'm going step by step here. So this half inch now we're going to mark here. So you can see that the distance that we have here now have reduced. So it's no more 2 inches, it's now 1.5, which is okay. So I also mark the remaining one that is there. Mark it here. So then I can now connect. So we have the same thing that we have on this underbust. That's what we have here also. So once I've done this, that intake, now we are going to do more lines. Yes, we want to create more panels because we're working with mesh. Now when you're working with a mesh fabric, the best option for you to do most times, especially when you're creating an overbust corset or a Victorian corset, a corset that doesn't have cup, a corset that goes all the way around your bust, you need to consider the fact that you have to create panels, especially if you are working with a mesh fabric. I'm saying mesh fabric because mesh fabric are usually difficult to mark. Okay, so for somebody that is just starting off with corset, or you don't know how to handle fabrics, and to have accuracy and not make mistakes or have errors. So the best thing to do is to create your panels and use those lines as your boning channel lines for the mesh instead of finding a way to mark on your mesh, to create your boning channel lines. So that's one advantage of it. So we're going to be creating more panel lines. Okay. So from here now you can determine the distance you want to give from each other. You can determine how many panels you want to do. So I can say let me do 2 inches apart. 2 inches apart is that much? Okay, let me do 1 3/4. I don't have too much space here, so let's do 1 3/4 is here, another 1 3/4 is here. So you can see I'm determining that from here that we've already done the dart intake. So that is what will determine your distance. So you now come to the lower part also and check, is it the same figure you want to use on this underbust line? That's what you want to use on the length. You ask yourself that. So for me, I want to reduce it. I'd like to reduce it to 1.5. Yeah, 1.5 is good. Another 1.5 here. So you connect. Okay. So once you're done with this, you're still going to determine for this upper part. So here now has to go straight. So just take it straight. Are you seeing that? So just take it straight like that. Okay. So you can see how I'm trying to like make the ruler parallel at this point, going all the way. Going all the way like that. So I'm making sure that it's going straight all the way. Although you can still create curves if you prefer, but I'm doing a straight line in this particular one. So once you've gotten the lines, the next thing you're going to do is to come on your waistline and do some dart intake. So I'm just going to be doing 1/4. That's 1/8 on each side. 1/8 here, 1/8 here. Okay. So total of 1/4. So 1/8 to left, 1/8 to right. Then you're going to connect this all the way like this. So remember, we're not narrowing the dart. So there are other easier methods to do this, but because we're working on mesh, okay, that's why we are creating on this panel. Now, this dart intake I'm doing now is not compulsory. Oh, it's not compulsory you do it. You can still decide to remove it on the waistline area. Okay, so yeah, we found all our panels. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 panels now. So that's it for this darts on the bodies, the bodies darts. We're still going to find darts on the side. We've not done that dart on the side. So make sure that you're following me step by step so that you can get it all right. So once we're done with this dart intake now for the body side, you're going to measure now. Remember what we did? We have removed some amount from the main measurement. So all of this will be removed. All of this will be removed. All these lines you're seeing here, I'm going to remove them later by the time we are cutting. So you can measure the lines that you are not removing. Okay, that is our 1, 2, 3, 4 panels. So measure wherever you stop on the line, take note of it. Continue. And 4.5 here. Continue from that 4.5. You have 6.18. Continue from that 6.8. You have 8.25. Remember that's what we're supposed to have for the underbust, 8.25. So my underbust is complete. If you measure, it's not up to your measurement. Find where your measurement will be. If it's going out or it's coming inside or whichever, find it. After that, I'll come and find that of the waist. So you check, you stop, take note of where you stop. So I'm doing mistake on. Okay, you continue from there. You measure. I have 4. I move the 4 to the next line. I have 5, 3, 8. I move that 5, 3, 8 to the next line, and this is where 8 is. Now for the waistline, I'm supposed to have 8.5, which is here. So my 8.5 supposed to be here. Okay, but waist need to be snatched. Waist needs to be snatched. So this figure that is here is not what is going to be here. Oh. Okay, so I'm going to snatch another ½ inch. So what I do is this: whatever my waist circumference is, this my waist circumference here now is what? 34. I will remove 2 inches from it, and I have what? 32. So that means 32 divided by 4 is what? 8. That's what I'm going to be using, not this particular measurement. But if I'm doing normal, basic, other kind of clothes, you can leave it. But for corset, you need to snatch it. Okay, so we're going to be working with this point, which is on the line here. Okay, so we found that side. Now for this length side. This length side on its own, normal on its own, it was complete. That time we measured the hip line. Okay, that time we measured the hip line and crossed it all the way to the waist. Wherever it crossed along all of these places, they are correct. But we have shortened it inside this place. So you need to make it complete. So you need to also measure it. So the best thing to do is measure all the whole line before. All the whole line. Yes, all of them. Measure everything. I have 10.78 of an inch. It's not up to 11, which is here. I'll write it down. 10.78. Now let's start measuring. by skipping all of these are that. We're skipping that now when measuring. So from here to here, I have 158. I mark it. I jump. You're jumping the whole of here now, right? I measure 318. You jump. You measure 438. You jump. You measure all the way. Now you're going to look for this 1078 now, which is all the way to this place. 1078 is here. I hope you are getting me. Oh, okay. So now I'm going to extend this line to that 1078. Can you see that? So this snatching is going to connect to that point. So let's connect. I'm going to place my ruler like this and connect. I don't want it to have too much curve, in as much as I want some curves there. I don't want it to be too much. So I'm trying to narrow it. Okay. So you can decide to place your ruler like this and draw. You can see there is a difference. You can decide to place your ruler straight and draw. Depends on what you want to get. Okay. But here I just want to have that little cone effect there. Okay. So we are done with this lower part for now. Okay. Next, we're going to do the dart for the side. So we're going to do this intake. This dart intake on the side is called bust dart or side dart. So you get it by measuring the back waistline. So from shoulder to back waistline, you find it. And look for the difference between that of the front waistline and that of the back waistline. Now, because of the bust, the length for the front waistline is usually longer than that of the back because there's no bust at the back. So measure that of your front. You can put your waist tape on your waist, tie something around your waist, measure from shoulder to that point for the front, and also measure for the back. Whatever the difference is, that's what you are going to be using as your side dart. So for me, the difference is 3 inches. So I'll be using that as my side dart. So, but you can work with a normal average of 2 inches. 2 inches works for mostly all the body sizes. But in case you just want to have a more fitted outfit, you can work with your accurate size. So I'm working with 3 inches. So you're going to connect that all the way to the bust line on the bust point here. Okay. So I'm going to through that line. Throwing means to make sure what you have here is what you have on this other line, because we're going to be closing this dart later. So I'm going to measure and I have what, 7. Now you reconnect and then reconnect back to there. I'm gonna go like this. So by the time we close the dart, you see why we did that. Okay. Now we found how many darts? About 3 darts here and another one here. Yes, this is going to be taken out. This is also a dart. Is remaining one. Oh, after this and all of this, we still have another one to do at this top part. This one is quite easy to do. So the best way to have your full coverage and not to have too much spillage is to measure from your bust point here to your under bust. Whatever you have, flip your tape around and also measure it on this line that we have here. I measured 4.5, right? Yes. So from the bust point here now, I'll measure also that same 4.5. Okay. On this point, I'm going to be doing that intake for the over bust. Okay. So for over bust, I usually work with 2 inches. It works most time for most body size to give you that tightening that you require for the over bust, so that you don't have spillage. When you bend down, you'll be feeling as if maybe your bust wants to fall down or your breast wants to come out from the outfit you're wearing. To avoid something like that, you can work with 2 inches. When I say 2 inches, I mean marking 1 inch to the left and another inch to the right. So a total of what? 2 inches. So you can work with that for most of the body sizes. Now it also depends on you, on what you want to have. Some persons will even tell you, I want to feel the spillage, like let my boss spill out. In case you have clients like that, what do? You have to give them what they want. So you cannot use up to that 2 inches. So you can work with 1.5, one quarter, one three quarter, depends on you. Okay. So, but in this case, we're going to be working with 2 inches because I want tight. I want to tight. Okay, don't need spillage. So if you also feel like you don't want coverage, you don't want a full coverage, you can come down maybe by half of an inch. I want to come down by half of an inch from this my bust radius. Yes, I forgot to mention that this measurement we did from here to here, finding what your bust point or your bust line to your under bust line, the difference, whatever that is there, is called bust radius. So because you can use this to determine the approximate area that your bust occupies on your body. So it's called bust radius. So I can decide to reduce the radius. That's a good rhyme. So I can decide to reduce whatever I have here by half inch, 1 inch, depends on what you want to achieve. So I'm going to be working with half of an inch. So I'm working with this line now. This will eliminate this. Okay, so I'll be working with this. So and here I'll be doing my 2 inches that intake. Let me reduce it to, let's work with 1 3/4. So I'm marking 7/8 of an inch to each side. 1 3/4 is here, sorry. Okay, then with your curve, you're going to connect. You can see that. Okay. So in this case, you can also decide to give a lower figure to this side, just like what we did here. But you need to consider that there are other panels here. Okay, you need to also consider that. But for me, I'm going to, let's do this. We're going to give half. Okay, let's give half to this side. So from here, I'm going to give half to this side. Then whatever that is remaining, say 3/4 here, I'll give to this other side. So I just want to have a little bit of a stylish slide sided line there. So it doesn't really matter. You can leave yours like this. So I'm just trying to show you here that you can do adjustments on your patterns at any point in time. All right. So I'm going to reconnect again. So from the bust point all the way, then you connect this other side. Okay, I think I got that. Yeah. So you're still going to through your darts, you measure whatever this is, make sure they are equal. So I'm short here by 1/4. So I'm going to increase this particular one by 1/4. So yes, our darts are complete. Our darts are complete for the front. So I want to make sure I connected this accurately. We just added extra line there. Okay. So make sure your darts are complete. We have one. So this is one now, 2, 3, 4, 5 darts for the front. Wow. Okay. So the next thing you're going to do is to find your neckline. Now, how do we find neckline? Neckline depends on you. Whatever style you want to do, sweetheart, deep scoop, V-neck, U-neck, whichever neckline you prefer. Okay. So, but you need to determine the depth. Now, if you don't want too much exposure, you don't want to expose cleavage, then you can work with about 1 inch above your bust point or on your armhole. You can stop at your armhole line. So we'll be connecting from this particular dart leg here, and I'll be placing my ruler this way. I'm going to be stopping at exactly on my armhole area. So this neckline here is called the sweetheart neckline. So you can see decide to place it this way. So let's just see the difference. If you place this way, let's see how it looks like. Okay. And if you place this way, let's see how it looks like. I can use this part here. Okay. So you can see that this has almost like a straight line, almost forming like a V-neck, but it's still a shape of a sweetheart. Okay. So you can work with this, you can work with this. I'm going to find my way in between. Let me see. I think I'll work on it. Let me use my pen so that I'll know exactly the line I'm working with. Yes. In between it is. Okay. So we have connected the neckline. So you can make it deeper, you can work up to your bust point, you can even do a plunge neckline. So next thing we're going to do is to connect this dark line, this particular dark leg now to the armhole to complete the formation, because it cannot be left standing like this. You need to connect it. Now to connect, you need to ask yourself this question first before you connect. Am I going to be adding sleeve? Will I be using yoke? Will I be adding sleeve to this particular corset? So if you're not adding sleeves, you want to wear it as a tube top, something that doesn't have sleeve, no yoke, nothing. Then you need to come up at the armhole area. Okay, you can come up by half of an inch to quarter, just to cover up that armhole area a little bit. So I like to do this if I'm using the outfit as a tube top. So, but if I'm adding sleeves, I will not be doing this because you need that ease for the sleeves. So I'll reconnect this now back to that point because it has changed. So this becomes your new line. You're still going to be applying the same thing to the back. So what do you now do next? Next, we're connecting this into that armhole. So you get your pen and your ruler, you place the curve this way. So I'm connecting from the armhole now to that part. So you want to have this flow that goes and also comes out as the armhole here. I hope you understand, like an inverted S. That's what you want to have there. So in some cases you can connect all the way like this, but I find out that it becomes uncomfortable for your armhole to sit in. So you need to give it that little curve there. So you go like this. You can go up more if you need more coverage. Then you bounce back or land back into the curve like this. Okay. Yeah, we are done with all the darts and the connections. So let me quickly just work this with the pen. So before we continue, I'm not going to draw these lines yet. We're going to use my marker on these lines yet because there's going to be an alteration later here. By the time we close this dart. So let's leave it at that for now. So the next thing we're going to do is to find the side curve, the hemline. You've not done the hemline. What kind of hemline do you want to have? How stylish do you want it to be? You ask yourself all of these questions. Okay. So on the side, I'm going to come up by 2 inches. You can work with one if it's okay by you. You can work with three, depends on the kind of stylish hemline you want to have. Okay. So in this case, I'll be coming up by 2 inches. So I'll also come down here on the center front by half of an inch or 1 inch. That also depends on you also. Okay. So once you've done that, you see these darts, try and close it. Just these big darts. The rest you can find your way around it later. try and close it. Then you're going to connect to this half inch point that you did. So you can work with straight line, you can work with curve like this. You can decide to work with this kind of curve. I can still decide to place my curve this way. So it all depends on you. So let's see what's better. So let me find my way around the kind of curve I want. So I'm connecting to this dart. Then I'm going to take it out like this on the side. I hope you got what I just did. Okay, I place it this way to find this curve to this second dart. So you can see that the paper is still folded. I use my finger to hold it. You can decide to use pin and pin it down or use sellotape. Or I'm not. I'm just using my finger to hold it. So from this your half inch that we came down by, like this half inch here, okay, you create a curve connecting to this point. So I'm using this point because it's almost like the midpoint. So you can find the midpoint if you want, or you can come in, whichever that you prefer. Okay, so on this particular last dart here, this last dart, that's where I stop the curve. Then you flip. You know it's like this now. The curve is like this. You now flip the curve to go outside like that. Okay. So find it. Let it connect to that point you stopped, and also connect to the 2 inches we marked. Then you now find the line. Okay. I'm sure you got that. So let me use my marker so that you know the lines we're working with. Okay, so I think that's the style line I like to use for the hemline. So yeah, we're done with the front. Let's see how the back will look like. Let's do the back. Now for the back, we've already found these upper parts, so it's going to be easy. So get your tape. You're going to find your shoulder to the waistline for the back this time around, not that of the front or the back. So for me, it is what, 16. Remember, I told you that the difference is 3 inches for me. So we have 1, 2, 3. That means it is 19 for the front. Meanwhile, it is 16 for the back. So is this 16 we'll be working with as the waistline for that of the back. So this helps you to eliminate bulges. You can decide not to do all this side darts, or from my result, I prefer taking out this side darts and doing this length for the back because it avoids and prevents bulges and squeezes at the back. Okay, so once you've done that, remember the length we're working with. Okay, the corset length itself 26. So now remember it is 3 inches we are removing from this side. Take out that 3 inches. Okay, then this is the 19 we're working with for the front, right? So you can you see that? So take out that 3 inches, find the 19, and also find your 26 for the length. So this is another shortcut to do it. Or you can measure everything. Okay, find your 26, then take out 1, 2, 3 inches. There are lots of ways to go about it. Okay, so next you're going to connect these points. Connect to have a straight line. Okay, so this is the length now for the back, and this is the waist now for the back. This is the shoulder line. So you can see we only have 1, 2, 3 lines for the back. So once you're done with that, you're going to come and measure the waistline. Remember that we've already found the bust here where we borrowed it, where we borrowed some amount to the front. So at the back now, we're measuring our waist measurement. Whatever your waist measurement is, put it in. Waist is 8 Eight and a half for me. Okay, so I'm starting from the center back and I measure eight and a half. Well, remember we want to snatch it. I remember we did snatching here. Okay, I'm going to snatch immediately. Okay, I'm not going to draw then come and snatch again. So I'm going to be snatching immediately. You can decide to draw your own first before snatching. It's the same thing. Just to show the difference with what you have done. Okay, so draw your own. You now draw your own normal. Okay, then do the snatching so that when you submit the assignment, I'll be able to see that you actually did your snatching, just like what we did for the front. Okay, or you can use your marking tool to mark so that I will know that you did your snatching and you followed the teaching. So now I'm going to connect this to the armhole line. Then also on the length. So now remember that measurement we did for the length for the front, which is 10.78. It's part of the reason why I say you should write it down. So you're going to measure it on the length for the back. So start from your center back line and find your 10.78, which is here. So now you're going to connect. So like I said, you can use straight line, you can use curve. So you can decide to go straight like this, then find the curve that will suit you best. Okay, so remember we did 2 inches up here. You're also going to do that, and the same curve you did here, you're going to do it so that it can connect, it can flow well. So find the midpoint here. 10.5 is 5.25. So see the way I'm placing my tape, my ruler. Now see the way I'm placing my ruler. That is the opposite direction of what we placed last here. This was how we placed this. So in opposite direction now is what I'm placing it. Then I can roll it like that. So for the back, you don't need to go down by 1 inch. Just connect back like this. Okay, so we're done with the hemline. Next is the dart. You can see can actually start from anywhere, as I've done hemline here now before doing the dart. So now for the dart intake, you're not going to be doing much. Okay, remember I've already marked the waistline here. I've already removed the dart intake, even the snatching effect of taking it out. So I can decide to just do a straight panel for the back. Okay, or you can decide to do a dart intake. So if you are doing dart intake, you want to make sure that you replace it. So before you can even do your dart, you need to mark your bust span measurement. So on the shoulder line here, you mark 4, and down here also 4. Then you connect. I'm working with 4. Whatever yours is, that's what you're marking. That's your nipple to nipple measurement. It's also called bust span. So once you've marked the bust span line, you determine where your dart will be. But remember what I said about creating your panels. Once you're working with mesh fabric, you need to create panels immediately on your pattern so that you can know where your boning channel lines will be instead of stressing yourself to mark it, right? Now, normally this line, this bust span line is what you're supposed to have, okay, to create your points where your darts will go. But that's not what we're working with. I just drew it so that you will know that that is the basics. But in this case, this is a corset. We need to snatch. If we keep this here and we want to create boning channel, right? Remember, we are creating our panels so that our boning channel lines will be easy for us to indicate. Remember that. So because of that panel that I want to create, if we keep it here, it's going to affect how many panels I want to do. For me, I want to do 3 panels. So if I leave this line here, it's going to affect my 3 panels. You can see here is equal, here is equal. How do I create 3 out of that? Okay, so that's why I said let me show you the basic first. You can work with it that way if you want, but for me, I am not doing that. What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to first of all remove my lacing bar line. So lacing bar is that point where your corset is tied. I'm going to remove it. So you can work with 2 inches, 3 inches, depending on you, the kind of style you want to have. If you can still decide you don't want to have lacing bar there, You want everything to close together. You can just work with just 1 inch. By the time you snatch, the two panels, that's the two parts, your left and the right side will come together and close up your back. Okay, so I'm going to be working with 2 inches, and so let's do 1.5 down here. Then I'm going to connect these two lines. So this will be removed. In fact, this is where your lacing will go. You can see I'm doing the lacing there, right? So around here is where the lacing bar will be. Let's see, around this point, around point 1.5 is where my lacing bar will be. So I'll mark it. The lacing bar is where your eyelets will go in. Okay. So are you seeing that that line now is being taken over? So this is lacing bar. Let me draw it so that it looks like lacing bar through. So I have a lacing bar here. Okay. The lacing, that's the eyelet, will be in here. Yes. Then your boning will be somewhere around there. Now we have just this space left. This space now, what are we going to do to it? You can decide to say, okay, I want 3 panels there. If it's 3 boning channels you want to have, so you can share this equally to have that. So whatever that is left here now, I'm going to be sharing it. Let's do, okay, I can do 1.5 here, or 1/4, another 1/4. So you can see all of these things are calculation. You have to bring in your calculation again. Okay, apply your wisdom. So as I'm showing you, like the process, at the point you apply your wisdom, apply your own variation. Okay, it's not a spoon feeding thing. So I'm going to do a channel here, another channel here. I'm recalculating now. I think I want to increase that line around here. Yes. So I'm going to have the line here and here. Yes. So you can decide to do that intake just like what we did for the front. You can do 1/4 that intake, 1/4 that intake. Okay, 1/4, 1/4. That's a total of 1/2 inch that intake there. So once you're done with this, the next thing is to do what you did here. Remember, we came up by 1/2 inch. You need to do that also here so that they will equal at the sides. So you reconnect, connect to the armhole like this. Then they determine the depth for the back. Do you want to work with this particular armhole line? You want to come up a little bit? This is the time to determine. So let's do, I'm going to come up, I think I'm going to come up by 1.5 here. So let's do 1.5 or 1 inch. Let's see what 1.5 gives us. So connecting here now. Okay, this is 1.5. So I want it covering me a little bit at the back. I don't want it going deep down. So I think this is okay. Let's style it. Okay. Okay, let me style it. So I want it full on this side, then it can disappear at that point, no problem. But I want it full coming from my armhole area. So I can work with this. So this is part of your creative mind. Put your creative mind to work. You can see this curve coming here. So you can even take the curve more, because once here is equal is okay. So you can take the curve a little bit more, then go out like that. So this thing I'm just doing is my own choice. You can do whatever choice you want. Okay, and I'm extending the lines. Of course, we have increased this point, so you need to extend the line. And yes, even your lacing bar too, we extend. Yes, and that's it for the back. So next thing we're going to do now is to cut. I'm going to separate the pattern. I set the back aside. Let's work on the front. So for the front now, starting from here, so once I get to this point, I'll cut, because we need to close this dart. You cut through this line under, stop at the bust point, okay? Then come down here and cut this first line. Okay. So we're going to transfer this dart to this down part now. So you need to close the dart like this. Let me see that. And close it this way. Okay. So, but before we do that, this second line here, now see why we closed that line before. I didn't show you the difference. See, you need to extend this now instead of drawing from here. Yeah. So follow this now and cut. Okay. We are going to close this dart like that. So get your glue or your sellotape. I'll be using my glue. So can you see the shift in line? That's why I said I was not going to use my marker then. Okay. So you're going to get your ruler. Just this part that has this slight curve, just place it. Place it from the under bust, okay? And we're going to reconnect back. So you're going to be having something like a slightly curved line, but don't make it obviously curved, please, to avoid stress, okay, when sewing. So you can see I'm not using like the deepest part of the curve. I'm trying to get the shallow part there. I think I'm okay at this point. I'm going to draw. So this will become my line, okay? So I'm also going to redraw this, and this will become my line here. Okay, so remember we did a dart, so I'm going to go that way. Let me not use the marker to spoil that. Just know that the line is going this way. Okay, and that way. So by the time I cut out, you're going to get the full picture of it. So let's continue cutting. So I'll just discard this part here. So you follow. So see that drawing we did, everything has equaled out on the side. We cut. So I'm going to cut this out here. And follow the neckline. And this is it. So remember we are cutting all of these darts. So you need to fold that dart. So I said we're going to do this later. So that's it. That's what we're doing now. You fold and you fold here so that they can equal out. So our target is this point. So you get your curve ruler again. So this time I have two. So let me just pin it down so that I can use my hand to do other things. Okay. So reconnect. So you can do all of these connections when you cut out your darts. But because these lines are coming in a slant formation, they are slanted. That's why this drawing of lines are very, very important. So I'm connecting back to this point here. So you can see the shift of line happening from here to here. Can you see that it's not actually following here? So this line has to come here, then continues here, and all the way like that. Continues here. So if you look at it, it looks insignificant. You might say, oh, it's not necessary, it's not much. There's actually something. Okay. So you're going to cut through the dots there and cut through. Okay. I'm going to cut this other one out. You know, we have about, let's go this way. I have about 1/4 of an inch that's there. Okay. I'll cut out this other one. Let's see. Equal. Yes, they are. So, yeah, our front is ready. Now you're going to label the pattern. So this is, you can label in a way that you understand. So I'll say this is 1. I'll call it F1, that's the front 1. Front 2, front 3, front 4. So you know all the panels. Then you can also go ahead and use an arrow to indicate the direction they are facing. As this is going to the top like this. So you don't go and start saying, oh, is it going to be placed like this or this way? And then, so the front is ready. So let's do that of the back. So back is quite easy to do. Just cut out the cut out down here. Here. Then you split it in panels. Okay. So remember that this is your lacing bar. Okay. So I'm going to name first. This is lacing bar LB. This is B1, B2, B3. Okay. And you're going to put the arrow. Arrow is very necessary for the back, especially for these panels, because you need to know the direction it's going. Okay. Now you're going to cut. Now when cutting, you're cutting the LB and B1 together because this is where the lacing bar is, right? Okay. So I like to cut mine together. In some cases, it is separated if you prefer. So that's it. That's it for the back. So our pattern is ready. Ah, patterns already. So you can see that the sides equal out at this point. Can you see how equal that is? Yes. That's what we want to have at the end of the day. Now that you have learned how to draft the pattern of this beautiful Victorian mesh, or you can call it Victorian two corset. So you can say it's a Victorian mesh corset or a Victorian two corset. You can even call it an overbust corset. Whichever name you want to call it, it is okay. But just know that this particular one is not your regular, okay? So now that you have learned how to make the pattern to this particular point, your assignment is to make your own pattern, okay? Create your own pattern, determine how many panels you want yours to be. If you don't have enough boning to work with or materials to work with, you can work with just three panels for the front, okay, instead of four. You know, I have up to F4. So you can just work with three panels, just the way the back is just three panels. You can divide yours in a way that it will just be three panels also to work with. So I can't wait to see your own submission in the group. Remember that the best outcome is going home with a special gift. So make sure that you are that person. So next we're going to be cutting out our fabric, and we'll be doing this and the sewing process in day two. So make sure you drop your assignments in the group where you got the link to this video. So make sure you go back there and drop your assignment. I'll see you in day two where we'll do our preparation and sewing in general. All right, keep winning, soulmates.